Donald Trump has been indicted in federal court for illegally retaining highly classified defense documents, obstruction of justice, and a whole bunch of other things. It's his second indictment, and as you might have been able to tell by the public reaction, this time everyone knows it's particularly serious. And it is. It is bad. It is beyond bad.
If even half of it is true, then he's toast.
For more than a year, prosecutors have been collecting evidence about whether Trump knowingly retained classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida after he left office. Investigators looked at whether he took steps to conceal the materials after the Justice Department issued a subpoena for their return, and this included investigating whether Trump instructed others to conceal the materials and whether he revealed their contents to other people. And now we know the answer. The answer is yes, he did. The most serious charge against Trump is that he retained national defense information, which is a violation of the Espionage Act. And now we have the actual indictment itself. I remind you that these are unproven allegations, and the government will have to prove them beyond a reasonable doubt for a conviction. But the DOJ says that they have a mountain of corroborating evidence, including tapes, emails, texts, and witnesses. And the amount of verbatim transcripts in this indictment makes it seem like the DOJ has numerous inculpatory records of Trump and his staff. So Trump's defense lawyers, whoever they are at the time of this video, should be quaking in their boots. Now, the indictment lays out in lurid detail how Trump and his valet, Waltine Nauda, conspired to conceal government documents. The facts of the indictment start on January 21st, 2021, with Trump getting ready to leave office. Trump caused his boxes containing hundreds of classified documents to be transported from the White House to the Mar-a-Lago club. From January through March 15th, 2021, some of Trump's boxes were stored in the Mar-a-Lago club's white and gold ballroom. Trump's boxes were for a time stacked on the ballroom stage. Now, as an attorney with years of experience, I probably need to break this down for you lay people. Now, generally speaking, a stage is used for the, public display of something. And being on a stage in a ballroom is usually antithetical to the secure protection of top secret documents. So in March 2021, those boxes were moved to the business center at Mar-a-Lago. This location also proved to be a problem as Trump employee number 1 asked Trump employee number 2 if they could move the boxes out of the business center to make room for staff to use it as an office. Employee number 2 initially balked at this suggestion. Whoa, okay, so POTUS specifically asked Nauda for those boxes to be in the business center because they are his papers. But later, employee 2 suggested moving the papers to the lake room, to which employee 1 responded, "There is still a little room in the shower where his other stuff is. Is it only his papers he cares about? There's some other stuff in there that are not his papers. Could that go to storage, or does he want everything in there on property?" This was a good idea to employee number 2. Yes, anything that's not the Beautiful Mind paper boxes can definitely go to storage. Want to take a look at the space and start moving tomorrow AM. Yes, believe it or not, his staff actually called them the Beautiful Mind paper boxes. And so, after the text exchange between Trump employee number 1 and Trump employee number 2, in April 2021, some of Trump's boxes were moved from the business center to a bathroom and shower in the Mar-a-Lago club's lake room. So at this point, the Beautiful Mind paper boxes had slowly declined in position and repute from the stage of the white and gold ballroom to the modest business center, and now sadly relegated to living in the bathroom, as Trump would say, like a dog. Yes, our nation's secrets relegated to the ugliest bathroom on the planet. And by now we've been poking fun at this, but note that in this bathroom there are fresh towels and there's an empty waste bin, implying that the housekeeping staff continually refreshes this bathroom, and I kind of doubt they have TSSCI clearance. But after a couple of months, Trump apparently decided he needed to use that shower and had the boxes moved to a storage room. And in May 2021, Trump caused some of his boxes to be brought to his summer residence at the Bedminster Club. And then it gets worse. On December 7, 2021, Nauda found several of Trump's boxes fallen and their contents spilled onto the floor of the storage room. Nauda texted Trump employee 2, quote, "I opened the door and found this." Nauda also attached 2 photographs he took of the spill. Trump employee number 2 replied, oh no, and I'm sorry POTUS had my phone." And Nauda attached a couple of photographs of the spill, one of which is given to us in the indictment with visible classified information redacted. Now, apart from the documents, this is also an interesting detail that POTUS had this employee's phone. Trump, who famously does not use a cell phone, was using someone else's phone for God only knows what. But this is also peanuts compared to the recorded interview Trump agreed to give in July 2021 with 2 staffers and the publisher and ghostwriter of Mark Meadows' autobiography at his Bedminster Club in New Jersey. Now, for your entertainment, we've used AI to recreate Trump's voice from the transcript. This is not really Trump's voice, which I assume would have been less comprehensible.
Well, with Mark Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Country A. Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look, this was him. They presented me this This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him.
Wow.
We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff, pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
Yeah.
I just found. Isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know? Except it is like highly confidential.
Yeah.
Secret. This is secret information. Look at this. You attack. And by the way, isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just thinking because we were talking about it. And, you know, he said, quote, he wanted to attack country A and what?
You did.
This was done by the military and given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify it.
figure out all, yeah.
See, as president, I could have declassified it.
Yeah.
Now I can't, you know, but this is still a secret.
Yeah, now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes, I would say that's interesting. I would say it's interesting to admit that you know that you could have declassified it before you left office, but didn't, and now you can't. And I'd also say it's interesting that you are intentionally showing these classified materials to someone who is not allowed to see them. That's definitely interesting. And again, broadly speaking, writers and publishers usually don't go hand in hand with the dissemination of TSSCI information. But surely, that was the only time that this happened, right? I mean, it's so blatant and stupid. There's no way he did it another time, right?
Wrong.
In August or September 2021, when he was no longer president, Trump met in his office at the Bedminster Club with a representative of his political action committee. During the meeting, Trump commented that an ongoing military operation in Country B was not going well. Trump showed the PAC representative a classified map of Country B and told the PAC representative that he should not be showing the map to the PAC representative and to not get too close. The PAC representative did not have a security clearance or any need to know classified information about the military operation. Just what an incredible tableau. I'm gonna show you highly classified material, but also don't get too close because you're not allowed to actually see it. And on top of it, there is a non-zero chance that one of the people shown this information was Kid Rock. Yeah, that Kid Rock. Now, in May of 2021, NARA realized that Trump had some documents that belonged to NARA and began demanding their return. So after half a year of repeated demands, on January 17, 2022, Trump Employee 2 and Nauda gathered 15 boxes from Trump's residence, loaded the boxes in Nauda's car, and took them to a commercial truck for delivery to NARA. Now, as we know, these 15 boxes were not everything that Trump had stashed at Mar-a-Lago, and NARA knew that too, so it referred the matter to the DOJ. On May 11, 2022, the grand jury issued a subpoena to the office of Donald J. Trump requiring the production of all documents with classification markings in the possession, custody, or control of Trump or the office of Donald J. Trump. Now, 11 days later, Trump met with his lawyer, Evan Corcoran, and unnamed Trump attorney number 2. At their meeting, Corcoran and attorney 2 made the legally wise suggestion that they fully comply with the subpoena, to which Trump responded,
I don't want anybody looking. I don't want anybody looking through my boxes. I really don't. I don't want you looking through my boxes. Well, what happens if we just don't respond at all or don't play ball with them? Wouldn't it be better if we just told them we don't have anything here? Well, look, isn't it better if there are no documents?
Then Trump, like a wise old Buddhist monk, relayed to the lawyers a story with a very clear implication.
Attorney, he was great. He did a great job. You know what? He said that it was him, that he was the one who deleted all of her emails, the 30,000 emails, because they basically dealt with her scheduling and her going to the gym and her having beauty appointments. And he was great. And so she didn't get in any trouble because he said that he was the one who deleted them.
Yeah, so literally misunderstanding what he thought happened in the Hillary Clinton case and then suggesting that one of his attorneys do what he think happened. Just incredible stuff. But apparently, Trump related the story more than once that day. But anyway, Trump agreed that Evan Corcoran would return to the Mar-a-Lago Club on June 2nd to search for any documents with classification markings to produce in response to the May 11th subpoena. However, between Trump's May 23rd meeting with Trump Attorney 1 and Trump Attorney 2 to discuss the May 11th subpoena, and June 2nd when Trump Attorney 1 returned to the Mar-a-Lago Club to review the boxes in the storage room, Nauda removed removed, at Trump's direction, a total of approximately 64 boxes from the storage room and brought them to the Trump residence. In sum, between May 23rd, 2022 and June 2nd, 2022, before Trump Attorney 1's review of Trump's boxes in the storage room, Nauta, at Trump's direction, moved approximately 64 boxes from the storage room to Trump's residence and brought to the storage room only approximately 30 boxes. Neither Trump nor Nauta informed Trump Attorney number 1 of this information. So basically, Trump let Evan Corcoran believe that Corcoran had turned over everything to the FBI. Then secretly, Trump and Nauta had hid away at least 24 extra boxes in another room when Corcoran sifted through the boxes in the storage room. Corcoran used the clear duct tape to seal the red-weld folder with the documents with classification markings inside. Corcoran brought the red-weld folder to Trump in the Mar-a-Lago dining room and confirmed that he had finished his search for classified documents. Trump asked, "Did you find anything? Is it bad? Good?" Trump and Trump Attorney 1 then discussed what to do with the red-weld folder containing documents with classification markings and whether Trump Attorney 1 should bring them to his hotel room and put them in a safe there. During that conversation, Trump made a plucking motion as memorialized by Trump Attorney 1. He made a funny motion as though, well, okay, why don't you take them with you to your hotel room, and if there's anything really bad in there, like, you know, pluck it out. And that was the motion that he made. He didn't say that. So after this incredible exchange, Corcoran contacted the FBI and told them that they were ready to hand the documents over. The next day, Corcoran and Christina Bobb met with the FBI, gave them the set of documents that they were aware of, as well as the red-weld folder full of classified documents, and Christina Bobb falsely certified that a diligent search had been conducted and that they returned any and all documents that are responsive to the subpoena. But the thing that really slaps you in the face is paragraph 72, because before the lawyers had made the search, apparently, earlier that same day, Nauta and others loaded several of Trump's boxes along with other items on aircraft that flew Trump and his family north for the summer. But at any rate, the FBI realized that they were still missing a ton of documents, and so they took the extraordinary step of issuing a search warrant against the property and basically raiding Mar-a-Lago on August 8th, 2022, where they found 102 documents with classification markings in Trump's office and storage room. Now, as you can probably already tell, Trump is going to need a good lawyer, which he may not have right now because they keep resigning. But if you need a great lawyer, my firm, the Eagle Team, is now accepting new clients. If you've been in a car crash, suffered from police brutality or sexual harassment, or just about anything else, we can represent you or find the right attorney who can. So just click on the link that's down in the description for a free consultation with my team. Because you don't just need a legal team, you need the Eagle Team. The link is below. And the timeline here is damning. On May 11th, Trump's lawyers accepted service of the grand jury subpoena for the missing documents. On May 22nd, Nauta took one box from the storage room and moved it to the Trump residence. The following day, on May 23rd, Trump met with his lawyers to discuss the response to the subpoena. Corcoran and Trump Attorney 2 informed Trump that they should really have the chance to search the documents and make sure that they comply fully with the subpoena. Trump clearly hated that idea and expressed that he didn't want anyone looking through his documents. And eventually, he agreed that Corcoran would have to look through the boxes of documents, but he pushed that back to June 2nd. But before that, on May 24th, Nauta removed 3 boxes from the storage room. On May 30th, after speaking with Trump on the phone, Nauta removed 50 boxes from the storage room. From a text conversation between Nauta and presumably Melania Trump, we know that the boxes ended up in Trump's residence. On June 1st, the day before Corcoran's search, Nauta moved another 11 boxes to the residence, for a total of 64. And the following day, Nauta moved only 30 boxes back from the storage room for Corcoran to actually look through. It appears that both Trump and Nauta interacted with Corcoran the day of the search, and neither told him that most of the boxes weren't in the storage room. Basically, they conspired to make sure that Corcoran and Christina Bobb unwittingly lied to the FBI the next day and only turned over a portion of the documents. Now, we'll talk about the legal charges in a second, but in sum, the indictment hits every formal and informal defense that Trump has so far broached. He possessed national defense information, much of which was TSSCI. He didn't have permission to possess the documents. He did not secure the documents. He certainly didn't declassify them. He knew he had not declassified those documents that he possessed. He showed them to others. He knew he shouldn't show them to others. He didn't cooperate, and then he lied that he had cooperated. He lied to his attorneys. He deliberately hid the docs from his attorneys so they couldn't comply. He repeatedly hid the docs from the FBI and NARA, and he conspired with others to complete everything that we've talked about. And as the allegedly recorded interactions show, he did everything for the Trumpiest reason of all. He kept the documents and he showed them to others for clout. So by now you're probably getting the sense that Trump is pretty screwed, but how screwed is he? Well, the indictment contains 38 different charges, and the first is 31 counts of violating the Espionage Act, one for each of the documents containing national defense information. The indictment includes a list of each of those documents, which you can find beginning on page 28. The list includes documents marked top secret, special handling, relevant to USA, FVEY for the Five Eyes intelligence, top secret, and SI. And in the descriptions of these documents, there are some truly terrifying commentary on the nature of these documents. For example, document 9 concerns military attacks by a foreign country. Document 12 pertains to the projected regional military capabilities of a foreign country and the United States. Document 19 involves the nuclear capabilities of the United States. And all these documents were, according to the indictment, shuffled around various locations in Mar-a-Lago, squirreled away in closets and bathrooms, and stored next to a toilet, spilled on a floor, and most of the time easy for anyone who worked at Mar-a-Lago to access. And worst, these may not even be the most sensitive documents recovered by the federal government. To bring an Espionage Act case, prosecutors have to cite documents that can be partially revealed during the trial. That's because the defendant has a right to review the evidence that is being used against them. So the DOJ appears to have recovered at least 13 top secret documents that weren't charged in the indictment. For each document listed in the indictment, prosecutors would have to have received approval to use it in the criminal case from the agency which owned that information. And some of the 13 documents might have been considered too sensitive to be exposed during the criminal case. And the indictment says that Trump kept classified documents created by or in some way involving most of America's intelligence agencies, including the Central Intelligence Agency, the Department of Defense, the National Security Agency, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, the Department of Energy, the Department of State's Bureau of Intelligence and Research, and others. Now, the name Espionage Act evokes foreign spies, and that has, of course, triggered Trump and his supporters who claim this act can't apply to a former president. But the Espionage Act applies to anyone who discloses national defense information to a foreign government. But it also applies to anyone who retains national security information or discloses it to any unauthorized person. And that doesn't necessarily need to even be classified information. So accordingly, Trump was indicted under Section 793E of the Act, which makes it a criminal offense for any unauthorized person to willfully retain national defense information and fail to deliver it to an officer or employee of the United States who is entitled to receive it. A 793E offense is a felony punishable by imprisonment of up to 10 years in prison. And unlike a lot of the things that we talk about on this channel where the maximum is nowhere near what the actual sentence someone would actually get, this is something where 10 years might actually be reasonable. And the really scary thing for Trump is that sometimes these kind of offenses can get consecutive sentences rather than concurrent, which means that they stack on top of each other and have to be served one after the other instead of serving all of the sentences at the same time. That can add up really easily. That's not to say he's guaranteed consecutive sentences. There's a whole thing in the sentencing guidelines that I'm not going to go into right now, but it is a possibility. Now, on top of that, count 32 is for conspiracy to obstruct justice. Subsection K of section 1512 prohibits a conspiracy stating, whoever conspires to commit any offense under the section shall be subject to the same penalties as those prescribed for the offense, the commission of which was the object of the conspiracy. And here, Trump's co-conspirator was allegedly Walt Nauta. The indictment says that the two men pressured other witnesses to withhold testimony or withhold a record, document, or other object from an official proceeding in violation of section 1512B2A, and to corruptly conceal a record in violation of section 1512C1. Now, count 33 of the indictment charges Trump and Nauta for misleading Trump's lawyers and others in order to withhold documents from an official proceeding. Now, the purpose of this tampering was allegedly so, quote, Trump could keep the documents that he had taken with him when he left the White House and to hide and conceal them from the grand jury. Count 34 is for corruptly concealing a document or record in violation of 1512C1 and 2, and that section applies to whoever corruptly alters, destroys, mutilates, or conceals a record, document, or other object, or attempts to do so with the intent to impair the object's integrity or availability to use in an official proceeding. Now here, Nauta and Trump were hit with this charge for hiding and concealing boxes of classified documents from Corcoran so that he would not be able to return them from the government. Then the 35th charge says that the defendants were concealing a document in a federal investigation in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1519, which outlines the federal crime of obstruction of justice for destroying, altering, or falsifying records. And the indictment lays out all the ways that Trump and Nauta obstructed the investigation. Trump suggested that his lawyer falsely represent that Trump did not have the documents responsive to the subpoena. And as we discussed in my video on the attorney-client privilege, prosecutors were able to use the crime fraud exception to get access to the notes taken by Evan Corcoran, one of Trump's lawyers, and the man who is throughout this indictment labeled as lawyer number one. Corcoran's notes helped the government lay the foundation for the obstruction charge. And the notes were taken contemporaneously with events that they unfolded. The notes say that Trump said, quote, I don't want anyone looking through my boxes. I really don't. I don't want you looking through my boxes. Which is of course incredibly ironic and harkens back to my favorite part of the Mueller report, where Trump was talking about how much he loved his old lawyer Roy Cohn, who was just a real piece of work, and hated the fact that his lawyers were taking notes. The president then asked, "What are these notes? Why do you take notes? Lawyers don't take notes. I never had a lawyer who took notes." McGahn responded that he keeps notes because he is a, quote, real lawyer, and explained that notes create a record and are not a bad thing. The president said, "I've had a lot of great lawyers like Roy Cohn. He did not take notes." Yeah, so here's the thing. Real lawyers take notes, both for the client's protection and for the lawyer's protection. But I digress. Anyway, on May 23rd, 2022, Corcoran and a person described as lawyer number 2 told Trump they needed to search for documents responsive to the subpoena. Corcoran then told Trump that he would be back on June 2nd. But on June 1st, Trump spoke with Corcoran to confirm that he was coming to Mar-a-Lago on June 2nd, and Trump directed Nauta to move 64 boxes out of the storage room and hide them from the lawyers. Nauta moved the boxes from the storage room and put them in Trump's residence. On June 2nd, the lawyers searched the residence and they found 38 classified documents and sealed them in a folder. But according to Corcoran's notes, Trump told him, "Wouldn't it be better if we just told them we don't have anything here?" He then said, "Well, look, isn't it better if there are no documents?" Just classic stuff there. And then of course there was the classic plucking gesture that he made about the documents. Now, the government says this obstructive conduct did serious harm because it meant the US didn't get the documents back until at least August of 2022. And it's worth noting, the Justice Department closed the Mike Pence case without charging him for obstruction, and this indictment shows why. Pence cooperated with the government, whereas Trump instructed his aides and lawyers to conceal records from the government after Trump was on notice that the government wanted them back. He pretended to be cooperating fully while trying to keep the documents. And he caused his lawyers to file a certification with the FBI falsely stating that he did a full search and returned all responsive material. So it's not surprising that Nauta was charged as his co-conspirator in most of this conduct. And Trump was also charged with a violation of 18 U.S.C. 1001. Section 1001 is the classic don't lie to the government provision. It makes it a crime for any person to make a false statement orally or in writing to federal investigators. It states that whoever in any manner within the jurisdiction of the executive, legislative, or judicial branch of the government of the United States knowingly and willfully falsifies, conceals, or covers up by any trick, scheme, or device a material fact, makes any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or representation, has committed a felony punishable by a fine, imprisonment by no more than 5 years, or both. Now, the government accuses both Trump and Nauta of a scheme to conceal. The government charged Trump with a subsection A2 of section 1001 by making representations that are materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent. And the indictment says that he caused his attorney number 3, who we think is Christina Bobb, to submit a sworn certification to the FBI that a diligent search was conducted and that all responsive documents were produced with the certification. In reality, though, Trump had sabotaged the attorney's efforts to do the search by making sure that Nauta removed boxes before the attorneys even did their search, and that the lawyer wasn't aware that Nauta was concealing documents. Of course, it's their own problem that the lawyer did not make sure that a diligent search had been conducted. But the indictment says that after the June certification, over 100 documents with classification markings were recovered when the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago. Nauta was also accused of lying to the FBI, violating the same section of the law. And Count 38 says that he voluntarily talked with the FBI on May 26, 2022, while represented by counsel. And during the interview, he made the following false statements in violation of 1001. He said he was unaware of Trump bringing any boxes into his Mar-a-Lago suite, that he had no information at all about where the boxes were located, how they were kept, or who had access to them. He had never seen the boxes until the day they arrived from Pine Hall. And the indictment says that Nauta knew exactly where the boxes came from, since he himself had moved the boxes from storage, and since Nauta had reviewed the boxes in and around Mar-a-Lago, even taking a photo of their spilled contents and sending it via text message. The indictment contains numerous text messages from Nauta about fetching the documents for Trump, and on January 22nd, 2022, Nauta texted a Mar-a-Lago employee about getting new covers for the boxes because Trump thought the existing ones were too marked up. And again, this was all after Trump was on notice that the government requested the return of the classified documents, believing that they were in an unsecured location. And again, here is Nauta, who doesn't have a security clearance, moving boxes around at will and then lying to the FBI about it. So basically, if the facts are as they are alleged, the Justice Department had no choice but to indict Nauta as well. Now, one of the more interesting things here is that Trump wasn't charged for retaining material that was returned to the government prior to the 2022 subpoena. So this is a pretty good indication that if Trump had cooperated, like others who had documents accidentally in their possession, like Biden and Pence, and shipped everything back, he wouldn't be staring down the barrel of of 37 counts of this indictment. Of course, storing hundreds of top secret documents in an unsealed bathroom can lead to all kinds of information being leaked. But for most of us, a lot of our personal information has already been gathered online. But you can get your online personal data taken down with today's sponsor, Incogni. Now, I don't know about you, but I've seen a huge uptick in the amount of spam that I'm getting. And it's no surprise why. Every year, the number and scope of data breaches worldwide is rising. And you might not know it, but there are hundreds of data brokers that possess and sell your personal information, and their numbers are growing every year. These data brokers could have your name, your address, your phone number, shopping habits, possibly even your social security number, all for the highest bidder. And at best, this leads to scam calls, and at worst, identity theft or doxing. And that's where Incogni comes in, because Incogni fights on your behalf to remove your personal data from data brokers and deals with any objections from their side. I've seen this in person. It's really impressive. All you have to do is create an account and give them approval to work on your behalf. Incogni then conducts repeated ongoing removals, because even if the broker removes your data once, they could collect it again. And Incogni makes sure that your personal information stays off the market for good. When I signed up, I saw a huge decrease in the number of spam emails and calls that I was getting. And it was terrifying to see exactly how many brokers had my data, but it was really fun to watch Incogni get them to delete that info one by one. So if you'd like to give Incogni a try, click on the link below to get 60% off of Incogni when you use the code LegalEagle. Again, to get an exclusive 60% off discount, just click on the link that's on screen right now or down in the description and use the code LegalEagle. After that, click on this box over here for more LegalEagle, or I'll see you in court.